Hello, welcome to Guitar Stuff Studio. Today I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to talk about music and heavy metal in particular and guitars as well. So I'm going to kind of merge it. So I'm going to try something a little bit different today. We'll see how it works out. Okay, so I found this article on Ultimate Guitar and it really got me thinking. I thought it'd be fun to talk about. Before we get into that, this dude. Hi, it's Andy from the future. Before I jump right into the video today, I've got a huge favour to ask. If you enjoyed the video, you found it informative, helpful, entertaining, anything like that, could you be so kind as to drop a like on the video? Leave a comment and say hi. YouTube is really competitive right now, and all the little free things such as likes, comments, anything like that, it really helps the channel out. Thank you so much. Back to the video. So this is the article I found. Zakk Wylde says this is the first metal riff of all time, and it's not Black Sabbath. They're all blues-based riffs. Now, personally, I didn't think Black Sabbath were responsible for the first ever, heavy metal riff. I think before we get into this as well, we need to talk about the differences between heavy metal and rock. Okay? Now, if you ever heard the song by Steppenwolf, Born to be Wild, I think that's the first song ever where the words heavy metal are mentioned. So you've got to think, like, back in the 60s when all this started coming about, I mean, what they were calling heavy metal, wouldn't even be classed as hard rock these days. But just for the sake of this video, just think heavy metal is anything that's rock, heavy, anything like that, okay? Anything that's not pop music. So we've got Zakk Wylde. Zakk Wylde named the riff from Cream's Sunshine of Your Love as the first metal riff of all time, and named Cream, Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin and Deep Purple as unsurpassed wells of inspiration for heavy metal riffs. I don't know, kind of got to agree with that. I mean, Sunshine of Your Love is, it's a heavy riff. I'm not sure if it's the first though. But we'll have a look at some of the other suggestions in a minute. The Ozzy Osbourne and Black Label Society axe wielder, Cringe, has cooked many a mean riff in his career. Still his stints with Ozzy and now Pantera also implied putting a lot of effort into studying the works of other iconic riff makers such as Tommy Iommi, Randy Rhoads and Dimebag Darrell. As such, it's fairly safe to call Zakk Wylde an authority on riff craft. Even though his go-to approach for cooking nasty riffs, as explained to Metal, who wrote this? The Phoenician, U.G. Writer. God. Zakk's Mount Riff War begins with Cream suggesting that the riff born out of Jack Bruce's bass line, which was in turn inspired by a Hendrix concert, was the first heavy metal riff in history. For me, when you talk about riffs, Cream's Sunshine of Your Love, I'd have to say that's what the first metal riff of all time. But they're all blues-based riffs, so Mount Riffmore would have to be Cream, Zeppelin, Sabbath and Purple. Anything within that zip code, and you'll be as okay as far as drawing light and inspiration. They're all just masters of riffs. Right, I kind of get what Zakk's saying here, because Zeppelin, Deep Purple, Black Sabbath and everything, they really ran with it. But there was a lot of really cool heavy metal riffs before that. I mean, these guys didn't invent it. But where this gets interesting is the comments, because loads of people mentioned songs that came before these ones. And we'll have a look at them in a minute. Speaking of inspiration, Zakk believes that anything goes as long as musicians play what they love. Asked what kind of advice he'd give to aspiring players, the guitar offered, whenever anybody asks me, Zakk, do you have any advice for my son or daughter? I go, play what you love. All the bands you love, your favourite artists, didn't follow trends or what's popular. I'm just playing music that I love. People say, oh man, that's Sabbathy, or it's this or it's that. Yeah, because that's the music I love. The food I like eating. When I was in Xyris, Zakk's local New Jersey band, we played whatever was popular then. Bon Jovi was huge, but Bon Jovi plays what they love and what they believe in. Nothing is forced, and people just happen to enjoy it. The same goes for Soundgarden. You can't tell Chris Cornell you need to be more like Guns N' Roses, or telling Guns N' Roses you need to be more like Bon Jovi. You have to play what you love playing, just stick to your guns and eventually people will enjoy listening to it. And it's true. It doesn't matter. If you're playing something and you love it, right, you've got to think somebody else will love it. So yeah, the comments was where it got interesting anyway. So, like I said, Steppenwolf's Born to Be Wild is a good example of one of the earliest really hard chugging riffs, and it even has heavy metal in the lyrics. Classic tune. Yeah, I mean, Steppenwolf. Great metal riff. Then we've got Maybe Sunshine of Your Love is a great riff and possibly the heaviest one to come out in '67. Actually, the entire Disraeli Gears album is fantastic, but if you compare it to the title cut on Black Sabbath's debut, it's not even close. They're like two different kinds of heavy. The Sunshine riff was heavy, but Black Sabbath created a wall of evil that flattened you. For me, Sabbath really created something heavier than what anyone had ever heard before, and it gets the prize. It doesn't get the prize for being first though, because, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Black Sabbath, but I mean, if you compare the riff in Paranoid to, you know, Master of Puppets or Ride the Lightning, you know, there's no comparison. You can't say that Metallica were the first people to do heavy metal. Sunshine of Your Love came out 3 years before Black Sabbath, so while most would agree they're different kinds of heavy, Zakk's still correct in Sunshine being the first heavy metal riff. Or the basis of his opinion is correct, whatever, you get what I'm trying to say. I agree it was the heaviest of '67, but like someone else mentioned, Cream was classic rock while Sabbath invented metal. I just don't consider Sunshine of Your Love heavy metal, and I mean that's kind of, you know, what I said at the start. You know, let's not get hung up on what's heavy metal and what's not, because I mean we're talking back in the day before it was even a thing. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Day Tripper is a proto-metal riff. Tune it down, slow it down, and you get great doom metal. And, I mean, a lot of people say that the Beatles, you know, actually inspired heavy metal and, you know, rock music. Not to mention that Helter Skelter is probably the first full metal song. The end riff of I Want You is also influential. It's literally a drop D distorted breakdown. You know, so we're going back now. We're going back. Exactly, and to prove it, here's Typo Negative's Beatles medley, including Day Tripper. Oh. I don't want to listen to that. I always thought Foxy Lady was a very metal riff and regard it as one of the first. Again, Foxy Lady by Jimi Hendrix. What a riff. Somebody else. Helter Skelter. And we've got Disagree, Black Sabbath invented metal. Cream was classic rock. This is what do you know what? I hate it when people do this. It's so pedantic because, you know, at the time, I mean, like the first ever, I mean, you can go back to like the Kinks with You Really Got Me, you know, and back then that was the heaviest of heavy metal. And nowadays it's just only one step up from pop music. Just don't get hung up on this stuff, just enjoy the music, and we're just using heavy metal as a blanket term for distorted, heavy guitar music. Stuff like Jethro Tull's A New Day Yesterday was a little bit before Black Sabbath, blues riffs with a darker edge. You know, it's like I say, it is subjective. I would vote for Link Ray's Rumble, but Sunshine of Your Love, Born to Be Wild, and Agada Davida, Helter Skelter, and I Want You, She's So Heavy, all good candidates. I would go even further back, listening to the opening of the Egmont Overture by Beethoven and try telling me that ain't metal. And then somebody says Summertime Blues has been called the first heavy metal riff. Zakk is not the be-all and end-all. I mean, it's true. I mean, Zakk's a cool guy, he's a great guitar, he's a fantastic guitar player. But, you know, at the end of the day, he's not the authority. And like I say, Shut up! And like I say, everything on this kind of thing is subjective. And yeah, I think you probably can argue that, you know, Sabbath were the first heavy metal band as we know it now, but like I say, you can't compare Black Sabbath to like Slayer or, you know, Metallica or, you know, Cradle of Filth or Napalm Death or anything like that for heaviness. But you know, it's two completely, you know, they're so far apart. But at the time when Sabbath were doing it, they were the heaviest. I mean, you go back to the start of the 80s when you had bands like Diamond Head and Judas Priest and Iron Maiden, and like everyone was like, poof, you know, because they were just super heavier and faster, and you know, music just got heavier and faster as you went on. But I mean, this is a great little article, and you know, there's a few cool comments and everything that I believe, you know, are very valid. And I think what I might do is I might start going back, and I might see if I can put together, and not get copyright claim, obviously, some of like the heavier kind of riffs that I can find. Anyway, that's all for today. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, do all that YouTube stuff. Really helps the channel out. Don't forget, stream every Wednesday and Saturday at 9 PM UK time. It's just me and a couple of buddies, and we sit around and talk about guitars and gear and stuff. So jump in the chat, join in, meet some other people and everything, and everyone's just helping each other out. It's a lot of good fun. I'll also leave a link for all my socials. So until next time, thanks for watching, take it easy, and peace out.